Friday night. Action-packed adventure.
I can get inside that factory with 10 men. 10 men! And blow it sky high.
Arise for 15 civilian hostages from the district of Telemark to be shot in reprisal.
Starring Richard Harris.
Who's coming with me tonight?
Michael Redgrave. And Kirk Douglas.
Shoot him.
A handful of men on an impossible mission. They were the heroes of Telemark. Your Friday night movie on ABC.
This year will be worth £90 million.
By the turn of the century, Australia was said to be riding on the sheep's back. And by the 1940s, wool had become a symbol of its wealth. It was produced across the country, and in the Pilbara, an area the size of Great Britain, 2 million sheep grazed on Aboriginal land. The mainstay of the industry was Aboriginal labour. They were denied citizenship, rarely paid, and it was illegal for Aborigines to leave their employment. Their lives became increasingly regulated by the Department of Native Affairs, who appointed protectors, who were usually the police. Freedom of movement became impossible. The protectors became their jailers. But in May 1946, 800 Aboriginal people throughout the Pilbara challenged the white law and went on strike.
Clancy and Dooley and Doc McLeod walked by the whirlies when the wind was loud, and their voice was new as the fresh sap running, and we keep on fighting and we keep on coming. The sheep got lost on the squatters' run. The shearing season was nearly done. Said the squatters, eaten up with greed, we'll pay good wages and give good feed. Our voice is lightning all over the land, and we clench up our fists on the seat of our hand for the voice of the workers thundering loud. Fight with Clancy and Dooley and Don McLeod.
$4 a fortnight. That's all we get. Them young fellas only get $1 a fortnight. 50 cents a week. That's all we have to get. Boots, we got to pay for the boots with that same money. Shirt and trousers, got to pay for woman's dress. Tobacco, matches, we're in debt all year round. Never get off the debt all the time. That's the way, keep us there all the time. Man want to go away, you get the police, patch him back because you owe too much in the station. We can't live.
We had a camp in the side of the river. My mother used to go to the house, work. Inside in a room, and outside, clean a window, scrub all the floor. And my mother used to sing out for us. We used to have a feeding all day. We all sit around there, have a feed, and all the boys when they knock off from work. We used to have a tea, breakfast, dinner. Side of the wood, they used to come with a plate full of rotten meat.
One night, we got the message. Tomorrow morning, when we get that message, we walk to the yard, sheep camp yard. And Scotus bloke coming to the yard. Well, we got a trap that 3,000 sheep. No, we're not working. We strike. All right, Scotus bloke say, right then, it's up to you. That's what he say. So we walk back to the river. Next morning, policeman was coming to the river. And we say, we're not going back to work. We finish.
News of the strike shook the government. Their reaction was swift.
Meanwhile, I wish to convey my thanks to Constable Fletcher and your good self, and to the other protectors who worked so well in circumventing MacLeod's actions.
Some method of detaining Clancy was urgently necessary, as he was continuing...
Although the government believed the strike to be the work of only a few agitators, additional police were immediately dispatched to keep the peace.
Proceed first plane Port Hedland. Native labour situation now very disturbed, and strike taking place because of MacLeod in Syria's anti-fascist communistic activities. Cooperate with police. Press for full-term imprisonment.
Don MacLeod was a prospector who'd often worked with Aborigines in the north. He understood the powerlessness of their situation, and over the years, a growing respect led Aborigines in the Pilbara to ask Don for his help.
I am convinced that the conviction of MacLeod is vital to future native welfare, as well as to the future of the pastoral industry in the northwest.
Because of the restraints of the Act of Administration of the Aboriginal Administration Act, it was impossible for the blackfellas to get the information they needed to break away from the slave conditions. Now, for over 5 years, they'd been at me to act as their spokesman and representative, and I was terrified to do it because I wouldn't have been a kick apiece amongst these slave owners up in the north because they were absolute masters of their situation. And it took 5 years before the blackfella satisfied me that they had a safe place where we could examine the situation carefully. And when I'd satisfied myself that this, I accepted an invitation to go to a place called Skull Springs. We went across country to it because we had to be where we wouldn't be interrupted by the police. And because of that, it was on the edge of the desert in rough country. Now, this meeting was like a small United Nations. It took 6 weeks to pursue it. In the morning, we'd have sessions, sometimes in Nungamutta, sometimes in Manjiljar. We had 23 languages. We had 16 interpreters. We had 2 men and 3 men, or sometimes 4 or 5 men from each of the various tribes from as far away as Alice Springs and Darwin. So I can assure you there was a lot to say, and it took a long time to say it. But after 6 weeks, everybody was satisfied they knew what they had to do.
The meeting at Skull Springs in 1942 agreed the strike could not begin until the war was over. 4 years later, it was decided they would strike on the 1st of May 1946. Tribal elders at the Skull Springs meeting had chosen 2 men to carry the word of the strike.
This is Dolly Binbin. This is Clancy McKenna. These 2 men made a strike, but help us out from under the white men. Like white men have Captain Cook, white fella. We have these 2 men, strong men, to help us out from under the white man who put a living.
The organisation of the strike was a massive undertaking. And even today, You can only hear the true story from the people.
Malgari manjukin beli ni malam ni malgari lu tagun. Yol vil jo tole lu nar. Yol vil bal jabat. Kalanjil. Kurngani kini. Ananga palaram. Muna ni ngamuar kolo jini. Kurngani kini kalspring. Midarang kolo nagano kurngani. Pala jawani ni kalanji tole impine balanga ubadu urana bula wango mani kini mayarang Wala jawani ni jirjaganya wani gini kurungana bula yarna pebolu jarinya kurungana gano mara jari jinda bine bulani kalan jeluba tolil imbini bulu bala jaganya bulu mindilo mani bine bulu mili kini bulu mili kano mani bine gani urana bulu mara jarinya na bulu mayarang Werini bulu 1946 balanga garbunga yagana ya maya.
So, went on, every station they want to know who is old Dooley. When he come to the station, scored a block, they always, they'd been like that always. They gotta know who ever coming into the station. This whole bloke was traveling with a boy. Squad always say, who that old fella? Or people always say, there's one of our family. What's he doing up here? They want to know. Or just passing through. Then he go to the next station to traveling from Diggeray, Malyi, Hattrick, Niminkara, Makkan, Yari, Kalewo, Warrogan, Walarinya, Lalarok, Pepangar. And he went back to Mulial. But the people were all satisfied in the station. Kualang, Kungan, Ijinba, they were all satisfied. Tapa, Yindi, Pudari, Manda. When the time come, they will walk off on the same day. 1946 strike.
A native named Dooley Nard Nullagine is also said to be a ringleader, and a warrant has been issued for his arrest. And it is hoped that when Dooley and Clancy are brought together, we might get some further information which will enable a charge to be preferred against MacLeod.
It's a 1946. This is robbery after strike. This is robbery. Dooley was making a robbery. He was happy.
Hey boys, you working while we're going station?
Yeah.
Those fellas, did they force you off?
No. We're willing to go with them.
Willing to go. You're telling a lie, I think.
We're telling the truth.
Telling the truth.
How come you left?
Well, we've been working for squatter there. He never treated us better. We all live in a good heap. Sure like you can work for him, not me. I'm going with this mob.
The strikers walked off stations all over the Pilbara and made their way by train and truck and foot to two camps, one in the east called Mulliela and the other in the west named 12 Mile.
We met Dooley Binbin and Clancy McKenna, and many people from station went to Mulliela. Some people went to 12 Mile. 400 people went to 12 Mile, 400 people went to Mulliela.
This is 12 miles back here. Just over, at the side. When we first come here, 1946, we came down on a train. Police come every day, want us to go back. You reckon they're going to put us in jail? We keep telling them we're not going back. Sometimes they tell us lie, we got Don in jail now, you know. We're not going to let him go. It's causing a lot of trouble for you fellas. You fellas should be back to the station, not here. We say, no, we're not going back.
McKenna and Dooley were arrested and sentenced to 3 months' imprisonment for enticing natives to leave their employment. Subsequently, MacLeod was arrested himself and charged on 3 accounts with counselling natives to commit offences under Section 47.
And if they ran into a problem, they'd give me a message and I'd come up at night time. Now, in those days, Port Hedland town was a strip just inside the old reef, was stuck up out in the air. It used to be on the ocean bottom, and now a ridge along behind which they dumped all their rubbish on the edge of the mangroves. Clancy would give me a message and say that they were meeting on that night, and would I come? He'd be walking out of town. He stood over 6 foot, 6'2" or 3". He was a fearless sort of a big half-caste bloke, and he'd have a dozen loaves of bread and a chaff bag on his back. Didn't help his balance too good. And we'd be going up along the edge of the mangroves and keeping down low because the coppers were on the skyline. But the same with Clancy. I'd say, for Christ's sake, shut up, and he'd be squashing bloody great big rusty kerosene tins and petrol tins with his big feet. The coppers are hearing the noise and flashing their torches, and we've got to make our way through them. And, of course, the mangrove leaves are very dry and brittle, and they make a hell of a rattle when you walk on them. But we'd go through all this and get up to the, with a bit of heart failure, get up to where they're meeting at the 2 Mile, and they'd be down close to the mangrove. And we'd lay on our belly and discuss these problems so we wouldn't be visible from the skyline. But they were always trying to get me arrested. If they could get me arrested in jail, I reckon they could freeze the strike. While I was free, I was a danger. I was a communist, I was subversive, and I was in danger of halting the progress of the North, because, as Bateman found in his commission, the Royal Commission, that the native labour was absolutely essential to the pastoral industry in the North, which would fail without it. But he never said they should be paid.
There is an advantage in native labour since it stays on the station, and the natives are not sufficiently advanced to appreciate white conditions. They gamble too, and in view of this, I doubt whether any monetary increases would help them much.
The strike was not reported by the major press, but word spread quickly and a support group rallied in Perth.
The decision to have a meeting at the Perth Town Hall was made by a group of interested people, the Women's Christian Temperance Union, the Communist Party, a whole lot of organisations from the left and from conservative elements, very dedicated people who had been concerned for a long time about the state of native exploitation in Western Australia, particularly in the north. A committee was set up there. This committee was set up to raise public awareness of what was happening up in the north, and to get finance, and resolutions of support were very important too.
The committee raised money for the defence of Clancy, Dooley and MacLeod. However, the police and the Department of Native Affairs had forced many of the strikers back to the stations. But the annual Port Hedland races, the biggest social event of the region, provided an opportunity for the strikers to regroup. Squatters, Aboriginal workers and strikers flooded into town.
So, race this morning, Saturday. When the race is over, we've got Don McLeod to talk for our cane sugar ration.
Well, anybody who is old enough to remember the war period would realise that before you could buy certain goods, butter, sugar, tea, petrol and various other things, you had to have a ration coupon. These were in a book. And you took a coupon out to buy so many ounces of tea or pound of butter or half of whatever it might be. And, well, like everybody else, the blackfellas had to have coupons as well. And, of course, when the strike occurred, they never had their coupon, and they wouldn't issue them.
So Don asked me to go see Gordon Marshall, the police, ask him for your coupon. So I went up and asked him. He said, no, I haven't got your coupon. Sure you got it, I tell him. No, I haven't got it. And I went back to Don second time. He said, he got it. He's going to bluff you out. Don't be frightened to tell him. Tell him it's yours, not his. All right, I went back again. Oh, you got it, all right. We find out from the station you got it. So what do you want it for? Tea and sugar. I'm not asking you for your coupon. I want my coupon, I tell you.
So they come down to me, and I said, well, we'll go up to the police and see what we can do. I took a deputation up to the police. We argued the point and argued the point and argued the point. I reckon that they'd... Well, it's an example of how contemptuous they were, the blackfellas. First of all, they reckon they weren't entitled to them. They were on strike. Then they said they'd have to go back to the station because coupons had been issued to the stations and they'd bought the ration goods. And when that didn't work and they still wanted them, they arrested me under Section 37, I think it is, for being within 5 chains of congregation or 2 more. Well, they put me in jail and they all went down and they blamed themselves for having me arrested. So they took the hats and coats off and marched off up to town. And they really expected to be shot, despite the fact that they were terrified. They come up to tear the jail to pieces.
Different. Which side of the window?
Police station is different, no?
That's all the old people, weak people. Almost 300-400 of us marched down, straight into the police station to bring him out of the jail.
Madam Mangoli Pini Kuari, Kanjili Pinalo, Kokojili Pinakupa, Kalamanara Jabir Janga, Yanagano, you, Jabir Malapina, went down on the Jabir Malapina, Mad. Canning go to Mayango, probably take care of me, locked up there somewhere, and we discussed walking and pick him up. Even at that window, can be shut, they just open the window and jump to it, and he be stay inside and pick him up and put him through the window. All the town stopped.
Yes, it's interesting to watch the reaction of the townspeople when the blackfellas come walking up the street, because they outnumber the townspeople 4 to 1. There was only 150 people in Port Hill in those days. And while they had the coppers bailed up in the police station, they bivouacked all around town, and the stuff they couldn't buy without coupons the day before was thrown at them. Whatever money they had, they bought the whole town. They spent all the money they had on ration goods without spending the coupon. So it's quite an interesting development. That's one, well, that and a few other things demonstrated to them the power that a group of people organised together and acting together, the amount of power they have.
You are probably already aware of the native situation in the Port Hedland district, which is very serious.
It was impossible to talk to any one boy. As soon as anyone approached the camp, the whole crowd called together into one solid mass. And when one began to talk, it was to the whole crowd, with Clancy, Dooley, Mullagy, Tommy and Ray, and Gordon Mackay in the forefront, acting as spokesman.
Can something be done about shifting these natives at the 12 Mile and jailing MacLeod? Or have we pastoralists got to give over the stations to MacLeod and his confederates?
It was 3 months after the strike. We'd had dispatches from the north. Don McLeod had sent many good accounts down that the Workers' Star had published, but it was felt that we needed to have someone from the committee go up there and give a first-hand account. And Peter Hodge, as secretary, was felt to be the one who should go. And little did he know, as he stepped on the plane here, what was awaiting him at the other end.
So when I picked Peter up, I went to run him into town. I said, well, I'll just drop you into town. You can have a shower and whatever. And I've got to go out to the 12 Mile to... we've got a couple of appeals for Clancy and Dildy to sign. We're going to High Court. And he said, where are they? I said, out to 12 Mile, pointed that way. Where's town this way? Oh, he said, well, I'll go out there after all. I've come to see them. So we didn't go to town. We went out to meet the people. Well, we just pulled in and I introduced Peter and he'd only said, good afternoon, friends. Somebody says, motor car coming, looks like a copper. And sure enough, Billy Kane, Dalgaty's agent, to come, pulled up with a police, driving a policeman. He jumped out and he arrested the pair of us out of hand. I've been within 5 days of a congregation of blackfellows. And Peter said, you can't arrest me, I'm a Church of England clergyman. And the copper said, it doesn't matter if you're Jesus Christ, mate, you're under arrest. And on the way in, Peter turned to me and he said, am I awake? And I said, well, you look like it. I think you're conscious. Well, he said, I'm mentally sandbagged. He said, it's the 20th century. I can't believe it. We had a number of cases, most of which went to the High Court because we weren't satisfied with the local version of the law. And this particular one, we thought it was very apt because with Peter Hodge, I was up on 4 of them already, but I thought if we could get Peter Hodge in the High Court before me, well, it'd be very, very hard to get a clergyman up for... I've been within 5 chains of a congregation of blackfellows within half an hour when we were arriving in Port Hedland, so we sent him in front. And the High Court found that they were interpreting this section too narrowly, that blackfellows, like the rest of the community, did have the right to organise and to elect their own representatives who should be accepted by the authorities. That was in 1949. Now, I was elected by the blackfellows to act and speak for them in 1942, and now this is 1985, and I'm still not recognised by them despite a High Court action. So just what can you do to convince the federal government that blackfellows in Western Australia are human beings?
Just before the strike, old Jackie hadn't been working in the station. He got sick. He went to a hospital, Port Hedland. Then he come back from Port Hedland in a train. He stopped in Marble Bar. Bloke was worrying about him. She ring up the police. And policeman found Jackie was in Marble Bar. He told Jackie, boss want you back over there. We'll roll you so I can come back to the station. But Jackie got roll his little swag, walk halfway along the road. He made up his mind. He'd come back to town. Because he can't walk that far. About 60 or 70 miles. All right. The next morning, policeman find him still in town. He asked him, what are you doing here? I tell you to go back to the station. Boss wants you back over there. Oh, no, I'm not walking back that far. If you want me, you could come up and pick me up. Now you could walk, because the boss wants you down there. No, I'm not going back. I'll put you in jail. If you put me in jail, I'm not going back. So the policeman grab him and take him to the police station. And Jackie got wild. Because he hit that policeman or beat him in a fight. All right. The policeman come along, grab that old fella, put a handcuff on his 2 hands, put him in a bar, hit him with a button, bleed him all over, nearly open his brain. Yippee.
After a reign of 14 years, Labour loses the WA state election. The ex-Premier, Mr. Wise...
The strike remained unreported in the press and was not an election issue in 1947, but it continued to be a thorn in the side of the government. After the election, the new government, with its even stronger links to the squatters of the north, immediately sought new measures to quell the strike.
Independents complete the House. The new cabinet has a busy time ahead of it. Housing, land settlement and transport are but a few of the many urgent problems. Mr. McCarthy is Western Australia's 17th Premier and...
Striking native camps are spread over a wide area now. This fact, coupled with the travelling around the countryside by scores of others by motor truck, horseback and the train from Marble Bar to Headland, makes the position from the point of view of the pastoralists one of tension.
So my father was in a Marble Bar then. So station quarter from Lalorook went to Marble Bar, trying to bring him back to station, to Lalorook station. So my father told him, I'm not going back to station. I better stop out here. I'm finishing off station. So the police, Scott was telling him that if you don't come to the station, I'll put a police on you. So my father told him, go and get a police for me. But I'm not going back to the station. Told him that.
My suggestions are as follows. The ringleaders in this strike be banished from this area. No native is to travel out of the Marble Bar district without at first securing a travel permit similar to that in force in the alien control regulations. Declare the gazetted town sites of Marble Bar and Port Hedland prohibited areas.
Survival was a constant battle for the strikers. Initially, they lived off the land, collecting traditional foods and trading in goat skins. But they found real independence through mining. Their intimate knowledge of the country enabled them to find rich deposits of both tin and gold.
Back then there was Dolly Bin Bin. We made a little bit of money, get some food for us, clothes, blanket, and a tucker.
No, having paninini moleala. Palaja urana jana ko moar wel ko lunyoro obuding. Palanga jabermana jani manodo mangolo nyoro moar ko marmo. Munola wara jana manameli.
Pilurva buno irgamba minara bajanji. Palurari wagadari mba mandagargara. Pilurva buno irgamba minara bajanji. Malurari wagadari mba mandagargara. Pilurva buno irgamba minara bajanji. Malurari wagadari mba mandagargara. Pilurva miru bangal gunba nguna mandagargara. Malurari wagadari mba mandagargara. Pilurva miru bangal gunba nguna mandagargara. And one time ago, when we was in station anyway, everywhere, if they sing about, sings corroborate or anything. Squatter bloke used to walk down the camp and tell him to go and shut up and go to sleep. That's what they used to tell us. One time ago, we was in Nullagans, the big mob was singing. Policeman come along, what you been making all this noise? Can't you go to bed? Too much noise, can't keep us asleep. That's what he tell everybody. Oh, people can't put up for it. Tell them to just go away. They frightened the policemen, otherwise they might go in jail. They were the bust for us. Always, frightened of them. Treat us like animal. GB.
Early in 1949, with the approach of another shearing season, tension between pastoralists and strikers reached boiling point. In April, a squatter forcibly removed a striker from Muliela camp. Dooley was angry and decided that a new strategy was needed. The strikers began sending out parties of men to outlying stations, calling out the remaining workers.
Right, Dooley say, and you want to satisfy people, go to Mendina and Warrogan, all going to finish up in Marble Bar. and people can stand out. 33 people. We'll build up marble bar, jailhouse. We gone. Goodbye, everybody. We're gonna build a marble bar. Goodbye.
The first party of 33 strikers left Mulliella Camp for Warrawagine Station, 100 miles to the east. They knew they would be arrested. Dooley's strategy of non-violence meant that the prisons of the northwest would soon be full of Aboriginal strikers. The strikers walked for 3 days before reaching Warrawagine Station.
And there was squatter block come.
The squatter met them with a gun, but the Warrawagine workers had made up their minds to leave.
And all the workers, they say, we got to go with them. All the mob. We've been working enough for you. And we go with this mob.
Maya kanina kakarjiri kagadelu Warrawagine. Yana parjiri ngora warinyi. Kagani balajangura tan no tela karawani ne bulajiman melbanya na kujara ala. But policeman come and right away just get up from the car. 2 policemen bring the chain from the car, put them on the ground, and so he asked us, who are the boss in this mob? We said, no one boss in here, all the same. Now we must get somebody here. The village must one boss in this mob. Now all the same, we're not no one boss here. No boss here. No boss here.
Is it time for you fellas?
Nothing.
Take the can.
1 billion. 1 billion.
You're under arrest.
We got no nomination.
Pull them up, say, drop the can, please. We're not animal. We're a human being. We're not animal. Just drop your gun.
Right.
We are human beings.
I have to advise that on the 14th of April 1949, 32 natives were arrested near Warrawagine Station by Constables Withnell and Chipper and conveyed to Marble Bar on a large truck of the semi-trailer type. It was alleged by the arresting constables that the natives adopted a defiant attitude when told that they were to be arrested, had refused to state their respective names and actually told the police that they could not arrest them. The police officers drew their revolvers and the arrests were effected. And 22 of the natives were chained with the regulation type of chain issued to the police for that purpose.
Okay. That's why we've been camping. 33 people will come through that door. Come here. And 33 people went round. So we make a camp. All at the chain. All at the chain.
Like camp for your chain.
All on the chain.
Camp in here.
Camp one night with chain.
When we put in the jail that night, you can hear some man in the chain, big mob of them, and some three like this in a handcuff. This man in the middle got in a hope like this. When he want to go to the toilet, while he got move, this two hand got to move to help this fella like this. And then if he sit down, they can all sit down. All right, when he finish, use something to clean himself, well, you all got to be like you in here. See? Then we'll get up, get his trash up, put him up like this, then go back to the camp. And when they're sleeping, one of them gonna go, the three gotta go, all gotta go. Even the big mob in the chain, they gotta all go. If you don't like to go, they gotta go. Policeman not satisfied he had people locked up. He should have taken the chain or something else to give him a better chance. He was really using black for an animal that days. Kiwi.
The Seamen's Union, as usual, were out in the forefront, and they put the black ban on wool from the slave stations. It was felt by the committee and the unions, particularly the maritime unions, that something more decisive was needed. There'd been a victory on a couple of stations in wages and conditions for the native workers there, but it was felt that a ban on wool would hit the pastoralists just where it hurt. The price of wool was rising, and the shearing clip was just on the way down south.
With the wool ban in place, Dooley sent another party of strikers to Narina Downs Station.
Kalau tu kudu kujini nan jani mil bajingan aku janaku. Kulgunja yali bala ngar mar binin janaku juda kadal yali bala yani irangaji. Roja bang irangaji ngani ni. Puli jamanu manja binangan aku uran kulbanya ngani ni puli manu kadikan kulbanya kan manu puli boy. Curi time balang mar binangan aku. Curi time kan ngani. Kalau jalan ni nali yali bala ay balang ngaruka tina yali bala. Maya gadi maya ngau. Mar binini tam ubad mar binini bala jaluk ngali ngwenangan aku jain. Kanangan ini mabul bang wani ini memang bari jiri kujara Cina jiri kujara muaraku.
We had 13 men in jail who'd been in jail for 10 days for Shanghai a group off Narina Downs. And when they got out of the court, Dooley said to O'Neill, Inspector O'Neill of Native Affairs, how many more jails will your North West hold, Mr. O'Neill? inspector. And he said, about 100. He said, all right, we'll have them for you in 14 days. So that from then on they didn't bother arrest any more blackfellas because they had too good a time in jail. That's subjugated the police. They had so many, we had over 66 in jail at that time. And they were just enjoying themselves. They were singing songs and crobbing all night long. When they want tobacco, they were given tobacco to shut them up. They just... And they could realise, of course, that it was no point in putting them in jail any longer. So that was the end of the jailing.
The wool ban had been in place for 30 days when in August 1949 the government notified MacLeod that they would accept the wages and conditions set down by the strikers. The wool ban was lifted. 1 week later, the government flatly denied that any agreement had been made.
Practically all the natives in the Marble Bar, Port Hedland districts have now left station employment and joined Don MacLeod in mining ventures.
By the 1950s, the squatters and their sheep had worn out the land, and the strike continued to take its toll. Many of the squatters began to leave. Meanwhile, for the strikers, a new market for minerals had now given them complete independence.
What for the you'll starve. That's the best place in the station. You should go back to the station because you was getting your tucker there. Oh, no, we'll be right. We'll look after ourselves. We'll look for gold, tin, a lot of different camp we had. Who was working gold, and another mob was working tin, and some tantalite, columbite. All kids and the women and the men and the boys all do work, battling. Everybody works every day. About 500-600 people was working there. And they never bothered to go back to the station. We keep on mining.
We had to move away because when we've been mining, a lot of white fella coming in, take over the places where we're mining. You can see a lot of white fella. They never used to do that before.
From that time, in about 70, we buy a station. That station what we've been working on. We buy that, and we own that places now. And we got our school. We buy Australia station first, and when we finish with mining, we stay there, and then we buy a few more stations beside Australia. Kungan and Warlan, Kalindi and Laluruk.
We try to run the station so we might can handle money from cattle and sheep. Everyone we satisfied that way.
The Pilbara strikers never went back to the stations. They continued to survive through discovering and working their own mineral leases. In other parts of the country, Aboriginal people were still working for minimal wages under intolerable conditions. In 1968, 20 years after the Pilbara strike, equal wages were introduced following a second walkout, this time at Wave Hill in the Northern Territory.
Folklore has it that their rich and powerful friends opened up the Pilbara mineral. The blackfellas, in fact, 800 of them, fed themselves for 25 years by mineral production, selling their product on the world's market. And it was only when it was realised by our rich and powerful friends that if blackfellas could make such a fortune, well, then real people could make ever so much more.
White interest in mining in the Pilbara in the late 1960s resulted in disputes between the strikers and mining companies. Settlement in and out of court invariably went against the strikers. By 1972, the strikers were forced to stop mining. They turned back to the stations, buying or leasing some of the properties they had previously worked.
We've got to realise that in Australia, politics is the art of double talk and double think. When Captain Stirling settled Australia in 1829, he flew a flag, fired a voluntary proclamation, on the basis this proclaimed that the state was empty, there was no people in it, and being in a deserted land, all they had to do was to pick it out and it become a legion of the Crown, and the laws of England applied at once. And within a year of the proclamation of the colony by the captain, they'd sold over 1 million acres of land around the Swan River at a price of 1 6 an acre, so they got £780,000 to establish the colony, as they've always done since, by stealing the blackfellas' estate and selling it to private enterprise to make us all rich and happy.
In 1981, trouble flared again in the north, this time over mineral claims and sacred land on Nookanbar Station. Aboriginal people throughout Australia rallied to the cause.
We done same as what Tunbaj done it. We put the flag up. We're going to claim the country back. Government won't listen. And trying to break the black fella down. Come and can help us, well, can come and leave us alone, still interfering with us, still send the mining cross, trying to damage the area, along to the Blackwell.
When you're tired for nothing.
Some country from one man, some here from Nangomata, some from Katikara, Manjil, till you do not damage in the area now, from the Blackball. Is a Blackball been in the before, not white man, till do not damage for the Blackball country. Well, at this time we make up our mind, we're going back into the desert again. Government won't help us. Our spokesman talking to the government won't listen. And this time we make up our mind, everybody, we've been completely here. We must kind of all go back into the desert.
Adunurang Pujara Braji Adunurang ini kunungaran dragging and dragging at yung yan pa kwari pa. We went on 4 years. We've still been in the strike all the way, and we're still in the strike today. We're on strike now.
Next in this series, we look at Japan's coal mine. A preview follows, and then ABC News Late Edition.
Australia now supplies more than half Japan's coal needs. But have we been outwitted?
Had Japanese trading companies take a small percentage, I believe, to get access to the books, and that was bad news.
Are we giving away too much?
Australians do the heavy work.
In our quest for valuable export dollars?
In this industry, the buyer calls the shots.
The other suppliers try to call more cheaper than you.
How long can Australia afford to be Japan's coal mine? Our next true story, 9:30 Thursday on ABC.
The uncertainty principle began as a wager that we couldn't find enough interesting and articulate Australian scientists to maintain a television series. Well, we won the bet, and now here's the book. Interviews with 18 men and women at the forefront of scientific debate. For anyone interested in our health, our future, our environment, the uncertainty principle is a must. Now available from ABC shops, bookstores and mail order on 008 02 3333.